Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the Harsh Man here coming at you with another video. I wanted to talk to you about kind of how I got started in real estate and how I was able to dive headfirst with a safety net in place, and also, just having some confidence and in the time to do that. So, without further ado, I got started in real estate right after I got out of the military. I had a job in the military that didn't translate into the civilian world. So it was very specialized. I was a survival instructor for the pilots in case they went down. I would teach them how to survive, and I was an augmentee for that position. So there's actually a role in the Air Force that teaches that. I was somebody who went through the training briefly enough to be able to teach it to the pilots. So, and I also built some like life support equipment, oxygen equipment, pack parachutes, things like that. So not a lot of that on the civilian side of the world, but that's what I did. And so I got out, and at the time my dad was going through some hard times and he needed some help doing his business. He ran a hardwood flooring business. He's very successful, very hardworking man. And we've always clashed because we're both hard-headed people. And so as the story goes, 2 months later, I was traveling a lot, missing out on family, and just working very hard for money. I was getting paid very well compared to what somebody else would be at an entry level, but it still wasn't enough for me. And I just felt like, this wasn't the right path for me. Um, I was working hard, breaking my back, and I felt like there was a better way. So I went to my brother's wedding, and at the time, after his wedding, we got to talking, and he mentioned something about being a landlord in a multi-unit complex and having the other tenants pay for the rent, and something in my head just kind of clicked, and I was like, damn, that makes a lot of sense. Like, why haven't I thought about that? And so I started reading up. I was watching Grant Cardone, believe it or not, and Grant was talking about multi-units, apartments, buying those things. So that's originally what I got into real estate for. Never even wanted to do wholesaling. I never heard of it, anything like that. And I quit my job with my dad. So the reason I quit my job with my dad was because while I was in the military, what I did was I didn't use all my income every month. I think I went in the military with like $3,000-4,000, that I saved up from high school and jobs after high school. But by the time I left the military, I'd actually invested in some stocks, dipping my toes in the water there. And I picked some really good, great companies that gave me like an average return of about 24%. And by the end of my term in the military, I had saved up about $20,000 to $21,000, and I had that in my savings account. So when I came back to my hometown, we found a house. Luckily, we had some family members who rented us a house, and it was only $500 a month. It was very generous of them. It was a single family. It wasn't a very big house, but it had a backyard for our dogs. It was big enough, just for us to get by for a couple of years. It wasn't in the best of areas, and that was what motivated me to get out and do this, because I wanted to make sure my family was safe. So that $21,000 or that $20,000 that I had, available, bought my time that I needed to be able to research real estate, right? Because I had no idea what I was doing. And I think the day I quit, I was like, I think we're going to start a t-shirt company, my wife and I, or something, because she likes doing the t-shirt stuff. So I was like, I don't really want to do that either. But I thought about more and more real estate, and I said, man, Grant Cardone talks about it, and he said you can start from it, whatever. Started looking more into it. I got a Bigger Pockets book. It's called Buying Rentals with No Money Down, or Using Other People's Money, something like that. And in the section, there's a small section about wholesaling. It's talking about how you can get money with like little to no upfront money that you need or investment. So it kind of piqued my interest right there. I still wasn't even interested in wholesaling. I just kind of was like, oh, that's interesting. So I got on Bigger Pockets through that book after reading it. And I just put myself out there. I said, I'm a new investor. I'm getting into real estate, diving head first. I kind of looked into wholesaling, wanted to find out more about that, as well as just investing in apartments and how I could do that. And a local realtor reached out to me on Bigger Pockets, who is also a wholesaler, and offered to take me to lunch and just share his knowledge of wholesaling. Actually, he didn't offer me. He said, if you ever need anything, let me know. And of course, I followed up immediately and said, hey, let's have lunch and do that. And so he did graciously, and I met with him, and I guess so through that process, I impressed him or something. Maybe he just wanted somebody, and I was the sucker or whatever. But actually, this guy and I were kind of friends now. So, but he texted me that later that night and said, "Hey, would you like an opportunity to work with us wholesaling? And we'll kind of teach you the ropes, and you'd be paid obviously on commission." I thought, shoot, I wanted to get into real estate. I'm gonna get a first class education. I might not be getting paid hourly, but I'm gonna be learning how to do it. And I thought that knowledge was worth more than the money at the time, and that was exactly right. At least that's my opinion. I feel like that knowledge was exactly where I needed to be. And the money came, so I cold call. He gave me a list of people in a very basic script, and he just kind of like, hey, this is what I say, and then that was it. There was like no formalities or anything. There was no structure. And I called 600 people in that first month, and this is before I found out there was Mojo Dialer, right? So I cold called 600 people individually. I would call like 120 numbers a day. And I would try to do 1 to 2 hours a day, and then the rest of the time I would be doing like, so I'd read. So I basically cut out hours in my schedule. I told my wife, and this is very hard when you're the breadwinner of the family, your father and your husband. You gotta kind of convince them to go on this path with you. Like, you're creating something that nobody's ever seen before in their own family, and you're telling them like, hey, you're gonna give them the world and the stars and the moon and everything, and you have no idea how you're gonna get there. But I figured if I just gave it my all, or just dedicated time towards it, eventually something's got to happen, right? At least that was my hope, and sure enough, I think where I'm at today, that's kind of what led me here. And so I would spend 6 to 8 hours reading books, watching videos, and cold calling, right? And I would just dive deep, and that was my work day. I would separate myself in the house and just go do that. And it was hard because to somebody who's not bringing in income, my wife was like, hey, you're not bringing in income, but you're going off by yourself for 6 to 8 hours. How do I know you're actually doing it? And so I had to prove to her that I was learning these things, and I was learning very fast. Like, I was reading books, man, I was taking notes. Dude, I was just diving in deep. And that's what you got to do. You got to be committed. That's my cat. It kind of scared me. The door opened. Nobody's home. So, yeah. So I dove deep, and you just gotta. That's the thing. Tony Robbins talks about it. Anytime you want to make a decision, whether it's to lose weight, to be better at something, all it takes is a decision, right? People think there's a lot of steps that lead up to a change in behavior. It's just one decision. In your mind, it flips and says, boom, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm this person. Now this is where I'm going. And that's what I did. I said, my back's against the wall right now. I have money saved up. Even if I fall flat on my ass, I know 100% I can get a job, because I did very well in the Air Force, did very well in my job, every job before that. I wouldn't say that I rose to the top at each job, but I was there. I was at the top, right? I was getting better. My goal was to be better than everybody else, because I'm very competitive, but be better than myself in those positions. So I was constantly improving, and I just like, man, I could just always fall back. Yeah, I had backup plans, right? And some of you are probably thinking, well, hey, I don't have a lot of backup plans. Like, that must be nice, right? You saved up some money. That must be nice. Start saving now. Yes, you want to make this decision to change now, and you can. You don't have to have money to start up. You can use other people's money. I mean, you can get as creative as you want to get your business up and going, or whatever change you want to do. That's just the path I took. I like to have a safety net. I like to have backup plans on backup plans in case I fall on my ass, because I often do. I often fall short. And in another video, I talked about forgiving yourself. And so I had to forgive myself a lot. And it's a lot because I'm hard-headed, and I'll learn to do things wrong 100 times before I get it right. But once I get it right, man, I start compounding. I compound that interest, right? I start compounding that knowledge and wisdom. And I plan to execute every day once I figure out the solution to a problem. And you guys have to have the same mentality. You have to have that, the confidence, and when I say confidence, you don't have to have the answer to every question, but you have to have the confidence to find the answer, right? That's more important, I think. And that's how I got started. And through them, I cold called those 600 people, got 3 contracts from the same seller. I even negotiated the seller, renegotiated the seller, renegotiated the seller. And my first deal, guys, they had no knowledge. And you know what the best part was? And I think the guy who helped me, he was a very good teacher. He's actually an excellent teacher because he let me do everything. And I learned best by trial, by fire. And he's like, do you want to do this? And to me, I was trying to impress him, I didn't want to be like a chicken shit and say, no, I don't want to renegotiate this guy because I'm too nervous. I said, okay, yeah, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. I say, okay, yeah, would you take this $5,000 less? He's like, okay, I'll do it. And I'm celebrating, yeah, you did it, I was so excited. The hype was real. And dude, it was fascinating, just by asking a question. And I made a lot of mistakes on my first one trying to sell it. I did not sell that one. They actually ended up finding the buyer. I showed the buyer for the walkthrough, so that was interesting. I did my first walkthrough and everything. I made my first mistake, biggest mistake, in telling the buyer what our assignment fee was, because nobody told me not to tell them. And we could have made like 20-30 grand on that one, but we ended up only making up like 13,000, split between 3 people, and I got 15% of that. So I wasn't getting paid a big commission, but I was getting paid a lot of knowledge, and that's what's valuable. So go out there, invest in yourself, buy some damn books, go network with some people, put yourself out on social media, invest bigger pockets. Don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself, right? You're going to be the newbie. You're going to make mistakes. Don't give up when you make those mistakes or embarrass yourself. You know how many times I embarrassed myself, and it's just still pushing forward. You're growing. You're not expected to know everything right away. And it's those who do not give up who are going to succeed. It's not those who know the most. It's not those who have the most money. It's those who are going to not give up. And that's how I got started. And through them, I met a bigger fish who offered me a position. And he was doing a lot more wholesales on a larger volume. And actually, in the year's time that I went with him, I dispositioned, which means I sold 40 wholesales total. And I gained a lot of knowledge for that. I was getting paid 10% commission off the assignments, but I made $60,000 my first year. So that means I made him $600,000 in assignment fees with no knowledge on how to sell a property or to acquire it. I didn't acquire any properties, but I just sold them, right? He didn't have a system in place. This dude had nothing in place, and I had to learn all that. And I said, this is the time. I'm going to learn how to put a system in place, help this guy out. And when I go to do it on my own, that's what I'm going to do. And sure enough, that's what I did. I sacrificed 2 years of my time working with other people, leveraging my time for money, and just getting the knowledge. The knowledge is more important and more valuable. Go out there and make mistakes, and don't be afraid to get into it. Again, that's how I got started in real estate. It might not be the best strategy, but it was my strategy, and I felt like that was the best way for me. I have a family to think about. I also don't have a family to fall back on. My in-laws, are, somebody I'm very blessed to have, because my family, unfortunately, I just don't have anybody to depend on. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You play the cards that you've been dealt, and you don't complain about it. So that's what I did. If you guys have any questions about this one, about anything you're going through, on how you can get started formulating a plan, let me know, and I'll try to come up with some videos that answers those questions. But I hope this video provided some value to you. It's been fun explaining my story. I'm sure I can condense it and made it a little bit better, but this is raw and real. And I feel like this is the best way to teach it. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this video, thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, turn those notifications on, so that way I can get you involved in my newest videos. And also, don't forget to check out the links below. Prop Stream, where you can get 100 leads a day, and Deal Machine, where you can get up to 15 deal credits just for signing up with my promo code, which is free 15 mailers or free 15 skip traces, which is very important in a time like now with the coronavirus. As always, take care, do your hair, and I'll see you in the next one.